Welcome, golf fans. This is your golf guru bringing you the first glance at the field of 30 for the Tour Championship. I'm going to break down the course, all the different areas we want to look at. I'm going to, because there's a lot of information, I think a lot of the other golf industry folks are not going to be doing a whole lot of deep diving. I'm going to be doing your deep diving, and we're going to look at all the different things because there's a lot to think about when getting your DFS picks in for the week. So let's get into it. First, I'm going to give you, or give myself a grade for how I did at the BMW Championship, played at Olympia Fields. If you remember, I came on and stated it was kind of a little bit last minute, but after Tiger got to play a 9-hole round and said, hey, this course is playing very difficult, like a U.S. Open. A lot of people in the field or the industry was saying, hey, 18, 20 under, it's FedEx, they like to allow scoring, and I kind of was a little bit on the once I heard Tiger's kind of comments, I said, hey, this is not going to be any cakewalk. So I actually already built these folks with the cakewalk kind of in mind, or not a cakewalk, but a lot easier playing conditions. But long story short, I also did kind of pivot some players, and funny enough, who I was always going for was Webb Simpson, which I think the conditions in this course would have fit him perfect. I think he could have ended up at a top 10, top 5, maybe won it, but that didn't happen because he didn't play. So anyways, let's just get on with it real quick. So shortly, we pivoted off Justin Thomas because he was almost 20% owned. He ended up with a T25, not bad, but I'm glad that I did make the pivot. Problem was I did pivot shares to DeChambeau at the time, thinking his length, that he would come back with the putting that was, hurt him at the TPC Boston, and that did not happen. I think he hit like one fairway on Saturday, so it was not impressive with DeChambeau, but we'll talk to him for coming up. But the good news was, if you did jump on Rory, again, I don't want to call this a sleeper pick because I don't think Rory's ever a sleeper pick, but due to recent form since COVID breakdown or the restart, T12 was excellent. He was leading off and on during Saturday. And so he couldn't pull it off on Sunday, which seems like that's just typical Rory no matter what form he's in. But a T12 for the price wasn't too bad. The top 15 range, again, I was still with the PGA hangover with Morikawa, even though, again, this course should have fit him well. But for some reason, he is slicing the driver. He cannot keep it in the fairway. But he ended up at a T20, made a bit of a comeback. Jason Day, I thought after the missed cut that he would come back and give us a good showing, but that did not happen. Ended up 64th, and so that pivot did not work. But I did say, hey, look at Cantlay again. Not saying it was a sleeper pick, Patrick Cantlay, but again, his recent form has not been on. But it's good to see that he made a bit of a comeback. Ended up with a T12. So Rory and him ended up tied for 12th. So again, worked out pretty well. Matthew Wolff, again, this was purely due to chalk, just trying to get off, a chalk bomb. But he ended up with a T16, played well. Thought Reed would play a little better at this course, but again, he ended up at T40. But I did mention, look at Adam Scott. This was his second week playing in a row, and he just fell apart on Sunday. If he could have had a better Sunday, he could have ended up at top 10. So that was that. Russell Henley ended up at a T25 again. I thought the course fit him all right. Just was trying to get off the chalk. Thought again at this time in the beginning, before all the information about how tough the course was playing, that Champ would actually be a nice, same with the Bryson. And you kind of see actually the guys with length, but if you watch the tournaments, Champ was just all over the lot, which is so odd for him off the tee. Usually he's very accurate. It's the other areas sometimes that cause problems, but even off the tee, he was having a hard time keeping it in the fairway, which you were just dead pretty much to some degree if you were in that rough. And then Cameron Champ, again, a nice T20 and has made it to the Tour Championship. So if you got on, Cameron Smith, you did well. I also was trying to get away from the chalk from Streelman, and that worked out pretty well. Did think that Adam Long would have a little better tournament. He is a more accurate player, not so long, even though the last name, but that did not work out so well. And I thought this would fit actually CH3 pretty well. but he's still, I think, just battling to get back from the injury. So a T48 there. I did say get off Gooch. I thought he was playing way above his pay grade, and that was the fact. I think he almost came in dead last next to Leishman. I did pull a Brian Harmon. Look at him. I think this course would fit him well again, happened to be accurate. He ended up with a T12. So for that 6,900, if you had some Brian Harmon, that did well. And where I really kind of faltered was I really thought Bobby Shelton was going to shock the world. And I think, I mean, at 7.2 ownership, I wasn't the only one on him. But he was very disappointed at T59. So lastly, the fade sleeper and winner I had picked. The good news, I did fade Hovland. He ended up with a T40, which for that price and, that kind of ownership, you do not want to be on him. Problem, as we already mentioned, my sleeper was Bobby Shelton. He did not come in. And then my winner, who I thought would do very well, was Berger. He ended up at T25. And funny enough, on Sunday, he came out guns a-blazing. I think he was 4 under and then just, bogeyed out. So didn't make the gains that he was. So overall, I'll give myself a B-. This was a really tough tournament. I'm not a huge fan of the super tough courses, and there's not a lot of scoring. But overall, a C+, B- is where I would give myself a grade. So, okay, let's get on to what we're here for. The Tour Championship. All right, so we're going to East Lake Country Club. They've been playing this tournament, the Tour Championship here for, I don't know, almost like 15, 20 years. I mean, there's been different periods of different tournaments here, but the Tour Championship has been here a while. So there is a lot of background information you can get on how some folks have done here. Some information about the course. It is a Donald Ross design. It's going to play a par 72 for this. The length is 73.50 almost. And funny enough, I think that's interesting that the course record is held by Zach Johnson in 2007. He shot a 60. So that starts to give you a little gleam into, I don't think when I say a gleam into that, you could actually be you can bomb and gouge, or you can also be a plotter at this course. And so then into that, let's look at some of the key data elements on what we're looking for in a golfer. And so what you're looking at on the top line there where it says average round, this is looking at all the last top 5 finishers. What is key is approach and putting. So these are super fast greens. If you look at the conditions it was played at last year, they are Bermuda, and they were rated lightning. Typically before that they were rated fast, but they were super lightning. Even they had quite a bit of rain. This was last year. If you remember the lightning strike that injured I think 6 people that were hiding under a pine tree, and it got hit. So they had a lot of stops and restarts in this tournament. So that was a bit of the conditions last year. Hopefully that will not be the same. But back to kind of the key areas. If you're looking, the par 4s, the long par 4s are going to be very key. So, the 425 to 500, you can see those are the 2 major. Driving accuracy is kind of interesting. The rough isn't going to be too bad. Nothing like what we just saw. So you can get distance and don't have to be as accurate. And the people that take advantage of the top 5, the par 5s, are gonna, it's gonna make hay. I also just put on here on the bottom, if you're interested, the back 9 is what plays the toughest. 16th, 17th, and 18th, they say are some of the toughest 3 finishing holes. And then even the 14th and the 15th are also very challenging. And this link here, if you go to, is actually a flyby of that back 9 to get a little better understanding of what the course looks like if you don't remember or haven't seen East Lake before. I think that's about it on the course information that I wanted to cover. Those were the key things I could find out. And so in summary with that, I believe a Webb Simpson could do very well here, but I also believe if DeChambeau's hitting his spots, getting the length when you have almost 7,400 yards is going to be a big advantage. So there's not a ton of issues. There is trees, there is some water, but, it's not a course that, it's just cut, like a harbor town or some of that where it's just cut through the trees. So you can, spray it around a little bit. All right, so what I wanted to go over here is, this is, if you've never dealt or, picked players when it comes to the Tour Championship, it is different. They are starting with, actually, depending on how they finished, they are starting with strokes already gained. So if you are, you know, the last 5 guys in this, so the 25 to the 30th, you're going to be at even. Where if you have the #1 seat, and this is looking at last year's, we're going to go into this year. But I wanted to pull up last year because this was the first year this format was put in place. It used to be very complicated math. At every shot, they were changing the points. You never knew really when it stood, or it was very difficult to figure out on who, you know, who's winning. And then the kicker was they actually awarded 2 trophies. They awarded, you know, the FedEx Playoff Trophy, and then whoever won the Tour Championship event. Again, which was very confusing. So I like this format, but you need to understand this format when picking players. And actually, you know, I was kind of shocked at DFS. There's a couple of events that they won't even offer. I should say DraftKings or FanDuel don't even offer DFS, but they are. From everything I see, it's all the normal tournaments you can get in. But on that note, it's, you know, now you're battling. You're looking at 30 people, and I actually did just wanted to do the computation math. And just so you understand, when you're picking a team of 6 out of a 30 sample size, there's still almost 600,000 combinations you could create. So all I'm saying is, yes, there's going to probably be some redundant teams for sure. But we got to find the unique areas and work on the leverage. You know, who's the guys in the bottom that are going to work their way up. And that's what I'm highlighting here. If you look at, you know, Patrick Cantlay, he started 8 under last year and actually ended up 21st. So from what I could find, he was the biggest mover going down. If you look at the biggest mover going up, DeChambeau, well, Kokrak made a big move, but he's not in the field. So I didn't really want to talk about, you know, that. What I wanted to highlight was DeChambeau actually started, you know, even and ended up with a T12. So that's pretty good to make that kind of move. And then, you know, I just highlight Rory won the tournament. He didn't start at 10 under. You know, he started at 5 under, but, you know, that's where he ended up was first. So there could be some movements, and I believe, I was trying to see where. So Dustin Johnson started at 3 under, and I believe, yeah, ended in last place. That was last year. But it's something to note. DJ's in crazy recent form. So, you know, his form wasn't that great, of course, probably last year. But just want to point that out so you understand probably where, you know, I think how I'm already starting to dive into this, and we're going to get into this. But I'm probably going to focus on, you know, really trying to find the guys in the mid-range that are in good recent form, and then find the sleepers at the very bottom. Again, it's still all about birdies and eagles. You know, the final placement where they end is, you know, it's important, don't get me wrong, but, you know, if you get a guy that ends up in 4th, but just, you know, because he started to say Patrick Reed, just pretty much pars out and has a few birdies here or there, and bogeys and whatever, you know, but because he started at 600, gets to like 8 under, and, you know, even though he might end in 3rd or 4th and get you those points, ultimately he's not going to give you the points you need to win this. So just keep that in mind. All right, so let's take a look at this year's field. This is 2020, and what you can see here is, you know, DJ, of course, you know, it was a great finish to yesterday. Thank you, Rom, for making that crazy putt, because that gave me, I had a lot of Rom. I wasn't so heavy on DJ, just thinking, you know, I'm just not one that would jump right back onto someone that won a tournament, you know. So didn't have a ton of DJ, but I had a lot of Rom, and that was a key putt for me. So good thing that happened. Anyways, and it was crazy that Dustin made his 30-plus footer to actually get the playoff. So I think they said it was over 100 and some feet of putts made in the last, you know, couple holes there. So who I'm targeting, so what I've already done is I ran within Fantasy National, I've created a custom stat model on those key areas that we just talked about, you know, approach being key, putting being key, the long par 4s being key, scoring on par 5s, you know, all those areas. And what's already starting to gleam, there's no pricing yet out as I'm doing this on Monday around 1 o'clock Eastern. But what is already kind of called out from that model, I ran it 2 ways. So I looked at just East Lake history, who's done very well. And some of these guys have never played at East Lake. And then I also ran the specs on the course. So with the greens being lightning and, you know, 72 to 704 yards and, you know, all the different conditions, I put that in. And what was kind of popping out were these folks that I've highlighted already. And again, I'm not picking these guys, but I'm just telling you who is showing up well from a historical data perspective at the course, at these conditions, at, Bermuda, all that involved. So right now at the top, Justin, Daniel Berger, and Bryson are starting to, gleam out. And then I'm going to do a deeper dive analysis, and we'll have, by Wednesday, I'll come out with my picks and pivots, and we'll know the projections, and I'll have all that. But right now, I just wanted to give you a first glance. And for people that's never did the fantasy golf during this period, trying to give them an explanation on, how this is all going to work. All right. So moving on to the next, and how I broke this up was, first tier is the top 10, mid tier is the next 10, and then the bottom tier is the next 10. All right, so these are your 3 unders, 2 unders, and again, guys that are popping out from the model, what it's stating is Rory, Xander, and Finau, which I think I'm going to be interested in Finau. But yeah, Schauffele and Rory again, but this is looking at historical, so we're also going to look at recent. I've got that in at the end just so we can kind of see what's going on there. But here's the other 3 guys that are popping in the model. And then lastly, these 3 guys, which Billy Horschel is very interesting. Of course, he won the FedEx, came from nowhere, barely even got into the FedEx playoffs, and again, this was a couple years back. But, so of course he's going to have some good stats at East Lake. Ryan Palmer and Kevin Kisner. So all those guys I'm actually pretty interested in. I want to do deeper knowledge and deeper dive into, other things like their, the putting surfaces, courses at comp against East Lake where they played at. And then now we got to look at recent form. That's key because I believe, Leishman is 25th at 1 under going in, and I wouldn't touch that guy with a 20-foot pole. So let's take a look at that. All right, so what you're looking at here is recent form, and when I say recent form, this is the guys, I pulled out the top 30 guys that are going into the Tour Championship, how they did at the BMW specifically, just to look at their last 4 rounds of golf. And let's just see what some things are coming out. So we already know Rahm and DJ played well. The only word DJ had a negative was around the green. Hideki is actually very interesting to me. Hideki has just always been not a good putter, but funny enough, every time they would show him, he'd have a par saving putt for 8 to 10 feet, which typically Hideki missed all the time, but somehow was draining him. I literally, especially for showdown for Hideki, it wouldn't have shocked me if he would have ended up like T20. I was just waiting for him to fall apart with the putter, but that didn't happen. And I guess, I'm sure if you watched and heard the coverage that he's made some changes to the putting stroke, and it looks like it's working. I did go back and look, and, he has been gaining, steadily on his putter. But the around the green, he has had some good around the greens from, shots gained around the green. But that's a little interesting that, that's where he was gaining a real majority. So, and it's kind of odd because approach is where Hideki's always known for, and he barely gained in his approach. So, again, we got to dive more into this. I also noticed that Bermuda is his worst putting surface. I have already looked into that, so that's going to be interesting. But Hideki would have to, do some deeper dive. But overall, of course, on that course, he played well, the T3. The Todd father, Brendan Todd, I will probably be off Todd. So if they are an orange, that is guys that right now, from first glance, I'm not too excited about. If they're in green, I'm interested, and I need to do further research on multiple different areas. So Brendan Todd, as you see, his putting, he was gaining almost 7 strokes, but actually lost tee to green. Brendan Todd's a good putter, but he's not that good a putter. So, yeah. I'll probably be fading Todd, even though this course is not a terrible fit for him. But under that recent form, I guess that's unsustainable or unsustainable to keep up, gaining 7 strokes to the putter for anyone. Munoz looks good. And again, what I'm looking at here, and I do this for Showdown, which I think I showed this in my Golf 101 video, but I always do this analysis daily before I put my picks in, is I'm always just looking for the guys that are really doing well tee to green, but just, having lip outs, just had a bad day with the putter. And so these guys always, grab my attention. Rory, great course history, of course, won it last year. He is looking good. And again, he wasn't, the putter wasn't even his big gain at all. It was losing putts. Tyrrell Hatton, I think this could be a good fit for him. So I'm kind of excited about him. And then Scheffler, you know, this is interesting, and what I got to try to figure out, probably how I'm going to construct my lineups is going to be the guys that, you know, the bomb and gouge, and then I'm going to have, you know, more of the plotters, so the Webb Simpsons, the Brendan Todds. I think, you know, and typically, you know, people will pick their lineups in that fashion. They'll try to correlate. So if, for whatever reason, if the weather, you know, gets bad, you've got your bad weather team, and you've got your, hey, you know what, the rough is actually tougher than we thought, like this past weekend at Olympia Fields. You know, would have been nice if you had a couple of the lineups built specifically. But, you know, DJ and Rahm, you know, funny enough, they are considered bombers and gougers. But the difference is DJ and Rahm are super accurate and lengthy. So that's a deadly combination. And again, will help here if, of course, they can keep that up. So Scotty Scheffler is piquing my interest just because of how much he lost here. And we know he can get hot with the putter, but I need to do, again, more research. Morikawa, struggling off the tee. So, you know, probably not going to be on him. I got to think a little more about that. And then we're Schauffele and Justin Thomas, who, you know, as we earlier saw, have great history here. Around the green was hurting him, and that's odd for Justin Thomas. He's one of the better around the green players there is. So we'll be interested in looking at him. You know, Berger, you know, I've just been waiting. You know, this is telling that, you know, his approach, he was losing, but he was also losing on putting. And Berger is on both is usually a positive. So he interests me. Billy Horschel, you know, lost 3 strokes. He's not the greatest putter, but I, you know, got to watch some of Billy Horschel's round, and he was burning edges. It just weren't dropping. So I'm going to be interested in Billy Ho. And then Palmer, again, off the tee at this course is not, you know, is not dire need that you are perfect off the tee here. So, you know, that's not a big concern. But I do like the approach number, and that, you know, he can get super hot with the putter. All the rest of the guys in orange, you know, none of them, let me see here. Yeah, like I said, if I build a bomb and gouge, I'm sure I'll have a DeChambeau, Champ, Scheffler lineup. You know, but right now, like I said, under recent form, as you see, and again, Leishman just I mean, literally, I think I could have went out and played that course. And I know this sounds arrogant, but, you know, I'm a pretty almost scratch golfer that I feel like I could have done better than where old Mark did. I don't know what's going on with Leishman. I like him. He's usually an amazing putter. And he lost 11 strokes putting. So just something's going on there. Just don't know if it's an injury. Don't know if it's personal things. But, you know, old Mark's struggling. But he's in the field. And that's it for me. So all the best of luck, and I will give you my picks later.